So moved.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. I'll take a motion then to approve the meeting minutes of December 6th. Somebody,
So moved. I'll second that.
thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries as well. We will take reports from appointees to outside boards and commissions and committees. Anybody have any to share? Commissioner Menz.
Hi, yes, I do serve on the Minneapolis Tree Advisory Committee, and we did have a discussion around the realistic nature of looking through the EAB process and how that works, and people were amenable, and it looks like there's a resolution on the table tonight for us to address, and it appears like it's a good role for that group. And I thank you to Commissioner Musich for submitting that resolution. Otherwise, we meet next week again.
Thank you. Any others from outside boards and commissions? We have oh, yes, Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, President Forney. I just wanted to remind my colleagues and the members of the viewing public that the joint meeting with the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, also known as MIA, is next Monday. Information about that is available on our website. Thanks.
We have a few announcements in general to announce, and I will allow Secretary Ringel to share some of them.
President Forney, I think there might be a committee change you want to make before but my primary piece is
Okay.
I'm going to run through the committees that
Okay.
are there tonight.
Yes, so my announcements, okay, is first of all, is that I mistakenly had the chair for our committee of planning, and I'm going to be actually appointing Vice President Abene. And then the other thing is, hopefully, we will be all getting that. The board calendar will be released. And to be noted is that there were quite a few Tuesdays. We normally meet on Wednesdays, okay? But because of federal holidays, religious observations, conferences that we can all attend, and also the Board of Estimate and Taxations, we've had to make a lot of adjustments. So they're not necessarily always going to be on the first and the third Thursdays, a lot of Tuesdays, and a lot of, so please really study that once it gets released. So those are my announcements. Please, Secretary Ringel.
Thank you, President Forney. I just wanted to walk through the appointments to each of the committees that we have tonight. We have a planning committee night and an admin finance committee, and I know the names actually aren't on the printed agendas yet, so it's just that fresh. So for planning, we have Chair Abeni, Vice Chair Thompson, and then committee members are Elper, Olson, and Rucker. One more time. Chair Abeni, Vice Chair Thompson, and committee members are Elper, Olson, and Rucker. For admin finance, we have two co-chairs. We have co-chair Rucker and co-chair Thompson. And then the committee members are Musich, Olson, and Schaefer. One more time, we've got the co-chairs of Rucker and Thompson. And then we have Musich, Olson, and Schaefer.
Thank you for that reminder. Yes, Commissioner Menz?
Sorry, that's one before.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll wait on all that. Okay, so moving forward then, we will get to our consent business. If anybody would like to move on the slate of the consent agenda, I'd appreciate it.
I'll move the slate of our consent business with the exception of Resolution 2023-255.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. And then on to standing committees.
No, we have Resolution 2023-255.
Thank you.
Which I can move. It's a resolution recognizing and honoring Tom Evers for his near-decade-long work as Executive Director of the Minneapolis Parks Foundation. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. I really appreciate that reminder. It is a significant one. It really is. So I'm pleased that our honoree is here this evening, so I am going to try to get through this. with a lot of smiles. Anyway, whereas Tom Evers graduated from St. Thomas University in 1993 and received a Master's of Public Administration from the University of Minnesota in 2005. Whereas Tom Evers has spent a career helping nonprofits reach their full potential through philanthropy, and strategic leadership with his extensive experience working on youth and conservation issues on both the national and the local level. Whereas Tom Evers has extensive experience in growing and working with boards of directors, developing and implementing long-range strategic plans, marketing, managing all aspects of fund development, philanthropy, and managing staff to success. Whereas Tom Evers worked for the Trust for Public Land, which focus on land conservation for people on a number of levels, including media relations, event productions, fundraising, communications, and general strategic planning for 10 years from September 2000 to January 2010. And in that capacity worked on the 2008 Legacy Amendment campaign, Yahoo, that led to dedicated funding for parks, art, clean water, and conservation improvement. Whereas Tom Evers worked at Playworks for over 4 years, developing a nonprofit working with other partners to promote active youth recreation opportunities and venues. Whereas Tom Evers has been the executive director of the Minneapolis Parks Foundation from October 2014 until the end of the year 2023. Whereas Tom Evers provided tremendous work at the Minneapolis Parks Foundation to ensure the economic, environmental, civic, and cultural health of Minneapolis in the region by creating the next generation of parks that meet the demand and reflect the values of our generation and those to follow. Whereas the Minneapolis Parks Foundation was founded in 2004 as an effort by the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board to reach out to private sector to improve parks, trails, and public services and to gain investment in this great park system. Whereas Tom Evers, as the executive director of the Minneapolis Parks Foundation, worked with staff and the board of directors in shaping and implementing a strategic direction that brings the organization into practice and help generate support for projects such as Waterworks, 26th Avenue Overlook, North Commons, and many others. Whereas Tom Evers led the Minneapolis Parks Foundation for nearly 10 years and made it an invaluable partner for the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, understatement, and its efforts at the state legislature, the city of Minneapolis, and other regional bodies to improve parks and trails in the city and the region. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board extend the deepest gratitude to Tom Evers and his family for all the work he has done over the last several decades to promote parks and places in and around the city of Minneapolis, and specifically for his work at the Minneapolis Parks Foundation, and wishes his all the best in his future endeavors. Resolved, the President and the Secretary have this resolution enrolled and presented to Mr. Evers at an appropriate event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Tom. We would love to have you come forward.
Thank you. This is an honor I was not expecting until somebody suggested that I should be here tonight. It has truly been an honor to be in this role. And I just want to note that the job is easier because this organization, the Park Board, is profoundly incredible. And as a partner from the philanthropic partner, it's easy to stand next to this organization. We also have a board that I would not be here but for that board and staff. So as I step back, there is continuity. There's an incredible team. There's an incredible board. And so I'm honored. Thank you. I will make one correction. And Becca noted that, Commissioner Thompson noted that St. John's University, not St. Thomas.
Oh, did I say Thomas?
That's okay. And
Whoa.
you have something to do? So St. John St. Ben's is my alma mater, but that's okay. Allows me to. But no, it's truly an honor to work with all of you, and I will miss. I'm not leaving town. I'm around, so I may be available for different activities and volunteering. But thank you. It's truly an honor.
Thank you.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to still working with you. Sorry for all the oops, gang. Okay, on then to standing committees, and so,
We need to pass.
oh, the meeting pass. Thank you, people, for bringing me back to reality. All right. Yes, so, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. All right, on to then to our standing committees, admin and finance. We have a couple of resolutions.
Yeah, on behalf of Admin and Finance, I'd like to move Resolution 2023-212, a resolution approving a 10-year factory concession agreement with Sea Salt Eatery. I feel like they've got power on this mic now, for the Minnehaha Falls Park food and beverage concession and authorizing expansion of the service into the pavilion area.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Is this a roll call?
I think it is.
Yeah.
It's Elise.
Roll call, please. Secretary?
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Menz.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Olson, absent. Commissioner Rucker.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson.
Aye.
Vice President Abeni.
Aye.
President Forney.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 absent.
That action carries. On to our next resolution.
Yes, also on behalf of Admin and Finance, I'll move Resolution 2023-213, a resolution approving Amendment 1 to the concession lease agreement with GDWG LLC TBA, the Painted Turtle, for the Lake Nokomis concession facility.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that item? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion? All right. All those in, oh no,
Roll
once
call.
again, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Menz.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Olson, absent. Commissioner Rucker.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson.
Aye.
Vice President Abeni.
Aye.
President Forney.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 absent.
That action carries. On to unfinished business. If somebody would read that, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Permanent easements, anybody?
I'll move Resolution 2023-251. This is a resolution approving the exchange of permanent easements between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the University of Minnesota, and a letter of agreement relating to future commitments by the parties, all pursuant and subsequent to a letter of agreement approved by the Board of Commissioners through Resolution 2021-204.
Second.
Thank you. Anybody want a discussion? Yes, Vice President Benny.
Thank you, President Forney. Since I work in the same organization as this as the university, I'm going to recuse myself and step away. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Menz.
I would like a presentation if it's possible.
Okay.
President Forney, Commissioner Menz, it is possible. President Forney, Commissioners, I'll go through some background on this just to review or refresh your memories on the parcels that we're talking about, and I'll move through that fairly quickly. I'll spend a little more time on the last 2 slides to explain the particulars of this particular action. So this is related to an exchange of permanent easements between the University of Minnesota, 2 parcels each way, both totaling a total of 0.9 acres. It also creates a new letter of agreement that extends the timeline. We were initially set up to pursue this on a timeline of 3 years, and it appears because of some complications on some of the parcels, we will not be able to do that. Should I be pausing for a second, or, okay. The 2021 letter of agreement essentially established a 3-year time frame for an exchange of properties related to beginning with an issue around Fraser Hall, where the university was developing a new building to replace the existing Fraser Hall, and they had an issue with building codes that required them to find a way to prevent another building from being built on the parcel that we own along East River Parkway. In exchange, I should note that the parcel that we're looking at, and you'll see this in a minute, is essentially boulevard space along East River Road, and it's not truly useful for park purposes. In exchange, the park board is looking at parcels that would be useful in the implementation of the Grand Rounds Missing Link. In this diagram, you can begin to see the yellow outline of the proposed new Fraser Hall, and you can see that the small area on the northeast corner of this diagram, I'll try and trace it here, that would be subject to an easement agreement. And I'll just keep moving through here. So as we looked to find ways to trade land, essentially, we looked at 2 sites that would be important in advancing the Grand Rounds Missing Link, one in the Towerside neighborhood and one in the Southeast Como neighborhood. You can see that there's 4 parcels, 2 coming from the university to the park board as this moves forward, 2 moving from the park board to the University of Minnesota. The exchange is an equal exchange of land at 0.9 acres. When we look at this for what we're doing in our swap, I have to note that the properties are aligned with the policies and plans of the park board, and it doesn't displace any uses that we would have on those particular parcels. Here's the general diagram of location. The 2 parcels that we would be giving up are both along East River Parkway, one near Fraser Hall, Brunick's Hall, and Appleby Hall, and one an extension of what is Harvard Street Southeast. Our parcels, and those are shown in orange, our parcels that we would be receiving include up at parcel D, which is coming off of Como Avenue, following along a portion of 27th Avenue Southeast, and parcels that are near the Towerside Park and another potential park that's directly across the transitway from that property. And here's just a better depiction. You begin to see the areas that are a part of Site A, our parcel A, running past Brunick's Hall, Appleby Hall, and up to, in this photograph, the existing Fraser Hall. We have no master plan improvements for those parcels. And here's what those look like. It's basically sidewalk. The second site is Harvard Street. This is a place where we own a few hundred square feet, basically, of Harvard Street. And as the university has been making improvements, we're constantly dealing with having to approve encroachments agreements across parkland for them to extend utility services or data and communication services across this street. And there are no park uses associated with this parcel either. And that's what that area looks like. Site C is 27th and Weeks Avenue. It's an area that could be significant in extending the Grand Rounds Missing Link Trail. And I'm going to note here that it's important that you recognize that there is a 27th Avenue Southeast that follows along the east side of this median and turns into Weeks Avenue. And there's also a 27th Avenue Southeast on the west side of the median that largely serves the residential neighborhood. And that could become important as we look at the letter of agreement in a minute. And here's what that area looks like. It's basically the boulevard area alongside a couple of university support services buildings. Site D is along either side of the University of Minnesota Transitway, and you can begin to see the circular form there is of the portion of Towerside Park that was developed and brought into the park system a few years ago. On the north side of the Transitway, we're working with Wall Development to create parkland and extension of the Grand Rounds Missing Link through an area of about 20-some acres that will bring us up past the Surly Brewery and Shaughnessy Distillery. So these 2 sites, C and D, are really supportive of us advancing the Grand Rounds Missing Link. And here's what those parcels look like. So this is where we get to the actual, when we get past the background, the exchange of permanent easements. The university needs a permanent easement from us because we haven't been able to fully affect the land exchange. We're still intent upon doing that. And so when we look at this, the exchange of easements deal with Site A at Fraser Hall and Site C, which is that parcel along 27th near Como Avenue. Both are 0.7 acres. One is moving from the park board to the U of M, that's Site A. The second is Site C, moving from the University of Minnesota to the MPRB. I noted already that it's necessary, that the exchange at Site A is necessary for them to be able to build a building that meets code requirements. And the permanent easement would essentially preclude the park board from constructing a building on parkland. It's practically impossible for us to build anything on that parcel anyway. Site C allows us to extend the Grand Rounds missing link, presumably a part of the Grand Rounds missing link along Como Avenue, between Como Avenue and Southeast Weeks Avenue. And because of the way that we're dealing with the letter of agreement, it may result in the aggregation of lands that might be suitable for a small park through the vacation of a portion of 27th Avenue Southeast, that portion that's on the east side of that median. So the letter of agreement states several intentions of the university, that they would support the vacation of that portion of 27th Avenue Southeast, that they would collaborate with the park board as we extend the Grand Rounds missing link north of Como Avenue, in an area that when I was at the university used to be called student housing. I don't know if they still call it that or not, but it's an area where they in the future may be doing some redevelopment, and they would work with us to extend the Grand Rounds missing link along the edge of that parcel. And then also to facilitate the crossing of the University of Minnesota Transit Way. It is a transit way that operates much like a dedicated busway or guideway, and so they would support the crossing of that. We would install crossing devices that will control pedestrian and bicycle movements across there, but they would be supportive of that. I noted already that this letter of agreement would also extend the timeline that we have to work under. As we went through our due diligence, we recognized that some parcels, those parcels owned by the University of Minnesota around Fraser Hall, are encumbered by unvacated rights of way that we would need to vacate through the city. We'd be moving through that process. And also we would have some subdivision work to do. So we still have more work to do to get to the full exchange of properties. So we would have the permanent easements in place and a commitment to continue along the same timeline to make the full exchange of parcels that we anticipate, both relative to parcels A and C, and then the eventual parcel exchange with the university at parcel B, which is the Harvard Street parcel, and parcel D, which is the one near the University of Minnesota Transit Way and Tower side. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Yes, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. I just, I might be I've been joking all day that I'm a curmudgeon to my students, so it's carrying over to this. Just to be clear, we're giving up essentially almost an acre of riverfront for industrial lands that are right now mostly paved.
Commissioner Forney and President Forney, Commissioner Thompson, we are giving up land along East River Parkway. It is largely today consumed by parking and concrete curb and gutter and sidewalk. And when staff looks at it, we're looking at the longer term opportunity of actually completing the Grand Rounds, which is something that has been in the works for decades. And the parcels that we're receiving would be a significant step forward. When we look at the parcel A, we retain the land under the roadway there. We don't actually own the roadway there at this time. So at the parcel A? East River Parkway, okay, near parcel A, we don't own the roadway. So that parcel is actually separated logically from the use of parkland, that small parcel there. And other encroachments that the university has made over the years at Appleby Hall and Brunick's Hall essentially limit us from doing anything except for having a sidewalk over the top of those parcels. We still have a trail on the opposite side of the parkway, and parkland along the west side of East River Parkway.
The completion of the Grand Rounds, that's not a big enough space for like an automobile though. It's just would be a pedestrian Grand Rounds.
President Forney, Commissioner Thompson, that's correct. As we look at what we imagine to be the Grand Rounds missing link, we're looking, and this was articulated in the East of the River long-range plan. We have several different methods of accomplishing bicycle and pedestrian connections, but not necessarily vehicle connections through there.
Thank you. I remember this presentation, or most of it, the last time. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Commissioner Mintz?
Thank you, Superintendent Schroeder. Very good presentation. So this is, just to be clear, so getting the easement on 27th helps us have that as an option for completing that portion through Southeast Como. I would be remiss in saying that I think that the original plan was on 33rd, but for the board and some of you who might have gone on the tour, that land is so industrial and there would be so much land acquisition cost that it's become almost unworkable if we want to really make progress on this grand rounds. And now that we have money to do so, just so you all are aware, there may be folks who are in Southeast Como who will be concerned about this, but I think that this is a decision to acquire this land helps us move the ball forward with the grand rounds in a way that could have a generational impact. So I just kind of wanted the board to be aware of that possibility from this decision. But as the district commissioner, I'm very supportive of this swap because it does really help us move the ball forward. Thank you.
Thinking, see no other lights. Thank you for the presentation. We need a roll call on this one. So, Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Menz,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner Olson, absent. Commissioner Rucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson.
Aye.
Noting Vice President Abene has recused herself. President Forney.
Aye.
You have 6 ayes, 2 absent, and 1 has recused.
Okay, just a few more minutes if somebody'd like to read the next resolution.
I'll move resolution 2023-256. It's a resolution directing the Minneapolis Tree Advisory Committee to be briefed by staff on the private tree removal and treatment processes, review the current communication tools, help identify opportunities for collaboration between city government and community partners to ensure accurate science-based information is available, and provide recommendations on how to better educate the public on these topics, the impacts of invasive pests to trees and what the signs are, what residents can do to respond to the threats to urban trees on private property, and how to navigate the removal, treatment, and assessment process if they have a tree or trees on their property that have been condemned.
Second.
Wonderful. Any discussion? Any discussion? Not seeing any lights? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay. We will start into open time, and I will read the rules for our open time. Thanks to all of you who want to share your thoughts and ideas with us during open time. Before we start, I want to provide an abbreviated version of the open time board rules. All individuals wishing to speak may call in before noon the day of the meeting to be placed on the agenda, or can sign up at the board meeting prior to the start of open time. I will be calling on people on the sign-up list only. Open time for public input shall not exceed a total of 15 minutes, with a time limit to be allocated by me, the president. Please watch the timer up here to be considerate of others here to speak, and stay within your allotted time. During open time, public testimony will be given without debate, and only clarifying questions from the board will be allowed. 2 types of items not appropriate for open time in order to protect the privacy of all individuals are pending litigation and personnel issues. Please refrain from commenting on specific personnel issues. We will not tolerate discriminatory and/or harassing words directed at anyone, so please ensure that all comments you make tonight comply with that policy. This board made the decision many years ago to operate under Robert's Rules of Order. Under Robert's Rules of Order, the ceding of time to another person is not allowed. So only those signed up to speak may speak for their allotted amount of time. We also request that each speaker provide his or her name and address. And I hope that we have the list of who will be speaking. Anyway, so we'll bide our time here until we receive, hopefully, there are a couple people who might want to speak to us. I apologize, everyone. Might be a glitch of some sort. We have 5 speakers, so I'm going to give each person 3 minutes each, and I will read off the names here. Constance Pempin, and then after that is Jonathan Carlson. Constance, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Constance Pepin, and I live in Park District 6. First, I'd like to wish you all a Happy New Year and to congratulate Commissioner Rucker for being selected to serve on the board. I'm here to ask you to reconsider your approval for 2 new proposed trail connections in Nokomis-Hiawatha Regional Park in what is called Area I, which is south of Lake Hiawatha. Area I improvements are ranked the lowest importance of the 6 project areas based on community engagement. A new pedestrian-only bridge in this area would most likely not achieve the goal to improve safety, and a pedestrian trail through the woods west of the creek would result in habitat loss and disruption in an area designated for habitat restoration and very near a tree where great horned owls have nested for years. Neither of these 2 items were considered key fact features or even pictured in the long-range Nokomis-Hiawatha plan. The plan does not show the actual locations of the proposed new bridge or pedestrian trail. Those details were only released in late summer 2023. So that means that community engagement during, is that me causing this? Am I hitting the mic? Oh, I apologize. That long-range planning process did not include public input on the specific bridge and trail that are currently being proposed now that funding is available. During the more recent consult phase of this project, none of the 7 comments submitted for Area I supported the new bridge or pedestrian trail. Just as widening roads does not reduce traffic, the proposed bridge is unlikely to improve safety. In fact, adding a new pedestrian bridge in order to move bike traffic to the existing bridge is likely to result in higher, not lower, bike speeds. The proposed bridge would also result in a potentially dangerous intersection of bike and pedestrian traffic just south of the 2 bridges. The importance of preserving and increasing wildlife habitat rather than fragmenting and destroying it should be given equal weight as a key factor in the Park Board's decision on this matter. The goal of safety can be met in other ways than building a new bridge that destroys precious habitat inside a prime wildlife and conservation corridor, which is acknowledged by the, which is a designated DNR conservation corridor. In addition to the lack of a public hearing and insufficient time for consideration by commissioners of these proposed trails, and based on inconsistency of these elements with the Park Board's mission, Parks for All plan, ecological system plan, please withdraw your approval and address significant community and park stewards' concerns about these 2 elements of the Hiawatha-Nokomis improvements. Thank you.
Your mic's not on.
If you have any questions that you have, our project manager, John Dusman, is over there. He's raising his hand. Our next person is Jonathan Carlson, and after that is Darwin Woodine. Welcome, Jonathan.
Good evening. I'm Jonathan Carlson. I live in the Kenwood neighborhood, and my wife has a home in Standish Erickson. I've come representing the people who live near the Hiawatha Golf Course, and we're very interested to hear the progress report that you're making. But I wanted to make sure that you all knew that the course itself has been designated to the National Register of Historic Places for its role in the desegregation of publicly owned property by the city of Minneapolis, beginning in 1952. Many of you may not know, it's something that I learned as a documentary filmmaker making a story for the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District about your master plan, that the water design of it is not going to work. Flooding the floodplain to reduce pumping is not going to reduce pumping. It's going to mean somebody else is going to be pumping. But what I found out about the historic nature of the place is what's been driving me to be presenting myself in front of you again today. And that is that this course, in playing that role, is now on the National Register, which means that the problem that you have in funding a project this large with both federal and state money is going to be very, very difficult because it's still in active use as an 18-hole course. And so I just wanted to be sure that you were also aware, because we had to find this out through a Freedom of Information Act, that the survey, the written survey that the park board itself took in August of 2020 got 347 written responses, people who sat down and actually wrote what they thought about your plan. Out of that 347, 196 wrote, keep the 18-hole course. 74 wrote, reject the master plan. The 9-hole plan is a loser. 20 out of 347 think your 9-hole plan is a good idea. And what that means for you all is that at some point, somebody's going to file a lawsuit, you're going to run into problems with legislation. And I just want you to know that as members of the neighborhood and as a member of the golfing community and the African American community, we have resources and are willing to bring resources to make this, to solve the water problems that are evident here in ways that are important, and maintain the historic nature of this landscape. And I have written up 19 historic facts about Hiawatha Golf Course that I'd like to enter into the public record, if I may, in honor of Juneteenth this last year.
Don is there if you'd like to submit your comments. Thank you. Okay, Darwin Dean, and then after that, former Commissioner Del French. Please.
Happy New Year, President Warney, Superintendent Bengora, Council Rice. Nice to see all of you commissioners as well. Everyone in here at the board knows that I'm an advocate for saving 18 holes of a golf at Hiawatha. But it was stated by one of the commissioners that we are stewards of the park board property, and that property is Hiawatha, maintaining its historic value and also maintaining its culture as far as what needs to be preserved in a community that has said more than once it would like 18 holes of golf at Hiawatha. So, that being said, a couple of things. John mentioned that Hiawatha was placed on the National Register. Well, I'm here to ask for a plaque, a bronze plaque being placed at Hiawatha Golf Course, right in the center, just before you enter into the front doors of the clubhouse. The other thing that was mentioned to me recently is, or someone asked the question, why isn't there a bronze statue of Solomon Hughes someplace, with that beautiful golf swing that was just shown in golf.com as a publication. But the main thing is golfers come and they pay to play 18 holes of regulation golf on that golf course. And right now, we have several greens that are in dire need of a sprinkler system and water and seeding. We have temporary greens that have been there almost a year. One tee box has been moved from its regulation to the center of a fairway based upon a complaint which someone said to me about golf balls. But the golf course doesn't have the responsibility, unless it's going to start taking on the responsibility for golf balls leaving the golf course. It's not the golf course's responsibility to move those tee boxes, to start changing things on the golf course that should not be changed. After all, you can't put a net up instead of moving the tee box. But I'm here to advocate several things that really require just stewardship. like taking care of the property, cutting the yard on time, putting water on the greens and the fairway, and treating it like the diamond that it is in the community. Happy New Year.
Thank
If you
you.
have any questions, you may contact me, Darwin Dean at the Bronze Foundation. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Londell French, and then after that is Ian Young.
My name is Londell French from, I live in Bancroft neighborhood. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Board President. I'm here to talk about the Run and Shoot program at Farview Park. It's a basketball program, but basketball program is, you know, for lack of better words, is what we call it. What it actually is a program where dozens of young, mostly black young men are going to hang out in the gym and then play a basketball league. Jamil Jackson, who's an outstanding youth worker, and I believe youth work is an art form. And Mr. Jackson, Coach Jackson, is an artist. And sometimes artists are hard and tough and difficult to deal with. But what you get is a finished piece of art. I think the program needs to stay intact the way it is right now. To think that the park board can duplicate that program without the personality that created the program would be a huge misstep. This program has been in existence for more than 10 years, and basketball is like probably the least thing that they do. Me and Mr. Jackson had actually took kids to college tours down south. We went and toured historically black colleges. I've watched Mr. Jackson on Facebook, on social media, when times are really, really bad over the north side, when things were getting hot and heavy in the streets. Squash beef on Facebook. That's the power that this artist of a youth worker you have. I think this program needs to continue. I know the park board thinks they can do the same thing with the resources that they have. Sometimes you can't do the same thing that's personality driven. I believe this program is personality driven. It would be a misstep to take away this coach from these young men. I don't know if any of you commissioners have ever been to the Run and Shoot program on a Sunday. I don't know if it's even intact right now, but go and watch what's going on. Young folks that, you know, people are writing off are in there playing, having a good time, enjoying themselves, networking. There's job opportunities. 3 or 4 of these young men came and painted my garage over the summer. They paid. I took some money out of my pocket, but I paid it freely. It was, and these are the type of things that goes on with the Run and Shoot program. I'm asking you, I'm begging you to make sure it stays intact, just like it is. So, thank you for allowing me to speak. Appreciate it.
Great. And if you want any follow-up questions, I believe that Larry, might you be available to speak with Ian, please, step forward.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Ian Young. I'm a Hiawatha neighborhood resident and representing Hiawatha for All. I'm here to speak to you about the Hiawatha Master Plan. I'm eager to hear tonight's report on the progress that's been made so far. I want to thank all the commissioners for your continued attention to this issue, and I especially want to thank the staff, who I know has been hard at work laying a lot of the groundwork here. We're eager to see this project move forward. We're eager to see this take the next steps towards turning into a reality. During the long process of coming up with this plan, you heard from all the people who care very deeply about the lake and the park, and about dealing with the issues there, and making this plan a reality. All those people, we're still here. We're still excited. We're still invested in this. We're still eager to see this plan come to fruition. So we're looking to you, commissioners, to keep this as a priority, to keep making sure that we're moving forward. Just thank you for your work so far, and please keep working on this, and I'm excited to hear where we're at so far. Thank you.
Thank you. No other speakers coming forward. I will close then the open time. And I believe that we are at the end of our agenda, and we are not bringing anything forward from committee. So I will move to petitions and communication, and I'll begin with Commissioner Schaefer.
I just wanted to take a moment and tell everyone that I am grateful for the times that I was able to spend with Robert Scafty in the Stevens Square Overlook. I brought these flowers in honor of him tonight. Tried to find his favorite, zinnias, but couldn't find them. He was an MPRB park steward and the greening coordinator for the Stevens Square Community Organization for many years and transformed that space from basically a dangerous alley to a native garden area, except for the zinnias. He would had to put the zinnias in. And you all know Robert was brutally murdered on December 8th. And so these are for him, and I want to just say publicly thank you for his service.
Commissioner Mance.
Thank you, President Forney. I have a couple of things to mention. First off, thank you, former Commissioner French, because Jamil Jackson is an amazing person who is a strong youth worker, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I'd also like to bring to our attention the warm weather. And there is a lot for us to do around climate change, and one of those things that I think that this body and this city needs is ice skating. And with this warm weather, it feels like a little bit of a beginning instead of an end. So I would encourage us to really consider and think about, when we're thinking about our budgets, about those refrigerated rinks throughout the city so that people in Minneapolis and also who come to Minneapolis do have the opportunity to skate in a world-class urban environment. Speaking of that world-class urban environment, one of the things that I have learned in my work and my awareness of indigenous populations is that we have one of the largest urban indigenous populations in the country. And there are multiple tribes represented. And I'd like to just say, and I've done this before, is the current land acknowledgement statement that we have is in our Parks for All plan. I think that this should be a part of our annual tradition and work to make sure that we are recognizing that we collectively acknowledge that the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board system is located on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of indigenous people. This land holds great historical and spiritual significance, along with personal significance to its original stewards, the native peoples of this region, including the Dakota and Ojibwe people. The other thing that was in this statement was that we recognize that a statement like this needs to be dynamic and change as we continue to grow. And I'm gonna challenge this body to do that this year, to figure out how we can grow and make sure that we are working with our indigenous communities in an authentic way, and to make sure that we as a board do the work to acknowledge and understand that. And I think that the more that we can re-indigenize our work, our practices, and our processes, the better off all of us will be. That we have lost a piece of our indigenous culture, and we have the power to re-indigenize our practices and our land and things of that nature, and I think that we should explore that. Finally, I think that Ms. Pepin brings up a good point around our community engagement with the lack of a public hearing. We agreed to put forward resolutions without public hearing, and I think that's a good practice because we want to be efficient. But when there is question, we should be nimble enough to recognize and figure out that maybe those things shouldn't go on consent agenda, and then we should be making sure that we're going through the process even if we're not having a public hearing. So I appreciate Ms. Pepin bringing that to our attention. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, President Forney. The echo was just like, am I hearing myself? I was just going to pass, but I would like to take a moment because I realize it might be the last time to just say a thank you to Tom Evers. I am continually humbled by being able to sit up here with all these people, and sometimes you get to have these wonderful privileges sitting here to meet other people that are deeply engaged and care about the city, and especially our parks. And Tom, has just been so wonderful to me. I've had the privilege to sit on the Parks Foundation board and get to know Tom, and I just wanted to take it one last chance to say thank you for all you do for our parks, for all that you taught me, and I could not be more grateful. So sorry to see you go. Bye.
Commissioner Music?
I'll pass.
Commissioner Rucker?
Thank you, President Fournier. As you all know, I was sworn in November 15th. My phone, my email, been blowing up. So basically, I'm hearing everybody what they're saying, about Hiawatha. I'm hearing what people are saying about the bridge over, by Hiawatha. I will be a type of commissioner that will get back to you. People probably sitting in this room, I got back to you. So I'm looking at also, Londale, I'm looking at the run and shoot. Looking at the rec, getting these kids back into the park. So I'm gonna be the type of commissioner with boots on the ground, and I will get back to you.
Thank you. Vice President Amene?
Pass.
So I agree. Thank you, Tom, for upping our, how do I say it? You classed it up. and I'm so appreciative of that. Along with classing it up and everything, you really personalized it all. And I'm just so appreciative of working with you. I know you're not going to leave us. You will have your hand in there someplace and everything. So anyway, I'm just very, very appreciative for all your work and look forward to our next stage, but know that you'll be involved. And then I also want to indicate to everybody, I don't know if those of you who have been here before, there's a few changes around, and there are new AV equipment. I know this, most people don't notice those things, but this has been a huge improvement, and I just want to acknowledge, I believe that our staff actually stayed overnight to make sure that this is all working so wonderfully. Chad, I appreciate you so much for all the work that you've done. You've brought us into, I don't know what century, anyway. It's really appreciated, and hopefully people can hear us better and see us better. So onward into the new year. And with that, I will close then the full board meeting and move on to Administration and Finance.
Okay, well, the time being 5:53, I would like to call the Administration and Finance Committee to order. Can Secretary Ringgold please call the roll? Now that we know what it is.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Olson, absent. Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Co-Chair Rucker.
Here.
Co-Chair Thompson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would someone like to, move the agenda?
I'll move the agenda for the Administration and Finance Committee for Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024.
Thank you. Any comments on the agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Would someone like to move the minutes from the 6th of December?
I will move the Administration and Finance Committee meetings of committee minutes of December 6th.
Any comments, challenges? No, it looks good. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Okay, on to our action items. Would anyone like to move the first one for us?
I'll move Resolution 2023-248, resolution approving a new lease agreement with East Side Neighborhood Services leasing space for 3 years at the Luxton Neighborhood Recreation Center located within George E. Luxton Park.
Excellent. Any questions? Comments? Would anyone like a presentation? We good? Seeing no lights, unless, of course, the zinnias are in. You're not. It's
Those are lilies.
I'm sorry. Lilies. Let me show how much I know about flowers. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Someone like to move the next one?
I'll move Resolution 2023-249, resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the North Loop Neighborhood Association related to the development of North Loop Park, a part of the Minneapolis Neighborhood Park System, and amending the 2024 Capital Improvement Program to direct up to $600,000 to the North Loop Park from the neighborhood portion of the Dibble-Hornstein Parkland Dedication Fund.
Thank you. Would anyone have a comment or question on yes, Commissioner Musich?
Thank you. I'm just wondering if this is the same neighborhood that we were hearing from neighbors about a desperate need for park amenities in due to the growth of the neighborhood in terms of residents.
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Musich, I don't know for certain, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. If you look at the growth of the North Loop Park, North Loop neighborhood in the last decade or more, it has grown significantly and has been for a long time a neighborhood that, other than the Central Riverfront, and granted with poor connections from the neighborhood to the Central Riverfront, really did suffer from a lack of park resources. So it's very likely. I don't know if specifically there might be other neighborhoods who are claiming the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this neighborhood was making that claim.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if it's in an area where we've seen an explosion of residents and have a deep need for parkland. So thank you for confirming for me that that is the case.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Resolution 2023-249, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Didn't sound like anyone left to say no. So that motion carries. Last one on the docket. Would someone like to move our last resolution?
I'll move Resolution 2023-253. This is a resolution approving change order number 2 with Custom Builders, Inc., contract COM 0006906 for Painter Park Phase 1 improvements in the amount of $25,070.15 for a new contract of $1,375,902.48 and authorizing the transfer of $26,951.93 from unspent 2023 MPP 20 construction contingency funds allocated to the Thomas Lowry 7 Pools project.
Excellent. Anyone have any questions or comments? Would like to see a presentation. Seeing no lights. All those in favor of Resolution 2023-253, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And it didn't sound like there were any voices left, so that motion carries. And now it looks like we have a wonderful report on our financial status. Take it away, Director Weissman.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes, please. Sorry, President Forney. Yes, I didn't see your light.
Yes, I apologize, but we did have a reports of officers. I failed to realize that, and we will have that then at our next board meeting. So my failure, and look forward to it at our next meeting.
All right, well, good evening, Chair Thompson and Commissioners. I'm here to provide a 2023 financial status report update. First, I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone. Second, I would like to say that I wish I was here presenting good news, but unfortunately, I have to report some information about property tax collections for 2023. So property tax revenue is received from Hennepin County in 3 payments. The first half collections we receive in July, the second half collections we receive in December, and then there's a final settlement payment that comes in February of the next year. During our third quarter financial status report, we estimated property taxes to meet budget based on the first half collections received in July and prior year experience. With the receipt of the second half collections, 2023 property taxes are now estimated to be under budget by almost $1 million. We contacted Hennepin County to ask them to provide us with information as to why our collection rate it has decreased. And the 2 factors that they said are impacting our collections for 2023 is that there are more properties in the delinquent status or unpaid status. The top 10 unpaid parcels in the city of Minneapolis, it constitutes $3.3 million in property taxes that remain unpaid. 237,000 of that would be the park board portion. Also, there is a higher number of tax court order adjustments that hit in 2023. Those adjustments total $9.9 million, almost $10 million, and our portion of that is $726,000. So unpaid parcels that are paid by December 31st are included in the final settlement distribution. Any collections that happen after that are distributed as delinquent tax collections. For tax court adjustments, those are not recoverable. It impacts the current year of property taxes. In the next years, those adjustments carry forward, so it really depends on when those tax court orders come in, if those adjustments are made to the tax base for that following year, and then the taxes are spread throughout. So we will need to keep an eye on 2024 for any additional tax court order adjustments and any impacts that it would carry forward into 2024 based on these adjustments that were made in 2023. So I wanted to kind of put this in context for you. Our property tax collection history, I chose 2006 as the first year to start. That is the first year that we started to build out of the Great Recession. And you'll see that we collected between 98% and 99% of property taxes. We budget at 99%. You'll see for 2023, we have one more payment remaining that will come in the end of January, early February. So we estimated that dollar amount to be similar to the dollar amounts that we've received historically. And we're estimating that our tax collection rate will be 97.8%. So again, that's almost $1 million under budget, and it is also the lowest collection rate since 2006. So why does this impact our general fund more than it impacts the city general fund? I'll remind everyone that the city's general fund property taxes make up 55% of their total revenue. And during the city's third quarter financial report, they are reporting their fees, fines, and other revenues are coming in over budget. Ours are not. Ours are coming in hopefully close to budget or might be slightly below budget as well. So for the Park Board's general fund, our property taxes make up 78% of our budget. So any fluctuation in property taxes has an impact on our general fund. The other item is the city has ARPA dollars available in 2023 and in 2024 for revenue replacement. Those ARPA fund dollars were allocated to the city of Minneapolis, and the Park Board did not receive that type of an allocation from the federal government. So in October, we provided the third quarter financial status report. We were showing that we were projecting our year end to have a slight surplus of just under 400,000. It's the last number here. We were hoping that that would add to our fund balance, but we would still be below the fund balance requirement at the end of the year. With the adjustment to property taxes, we now are projecting that we're going to end the year with more expenditures than we have revenue by just over $600,000. So we will be using general fund balance, and we will now be $1.3 million below our financial management requirement. And I'm available to respond to any questions.
I don't see any, yes, Commissioner Usage.
Sorry. Thank you, Chair Thompson. I'm sorry I can't sit for that long because it's hurting my back, so I'll be up and down. So understanding that we have this shortfall and the year's already over, there's not a whole lot that we can do about it retroactively. What should we be considering moving forward to address the shortfall? Are we going to need to amend our budget for this year to reallocate funds to the general fund to ensure that we have the appropriate fund balance, or do you have additional suggestions that we should be considering? And at what point will you be bringing those suggestions before the board for consideration?
So Chair Thompson and Commissioner Usage, as we talked during the budget process, fund balance is really there for those unforeseen, unknowable circumstances and emergency type storm response, those type of things. So having a fund balance is having this $613,000 use of fund balance. That's why fund balance is there. But we will need to rebuild our fund balance and get our fund balance back up to our financial management policy requirement. And we will be doing that over time. So yes, we will be, as we finalize 2023. Of course, we're still paying invoices for 2023. We have the last payment from Hennepin County that we'll be receiving. So once we know what those final numbers are, we'll know where we're at for 2024. And our hope is to add to the fund balance, but there will be a lot of conversations both internally with the executive team about ideas on how we will be able to do that. And then, yes, we will come back to the board. And I would estimate that our 2023 books close the second week in February. So it would be sometime in March that we would be able to come back and provide a final status on 23.
Okay, so we'll get a status in March. Would you anticipate that the discussion around rebuilding the fund balance would occur as part of our budget planning for 25? Or will we have independent conversations at the committee level prior to then?
Chair Thompson and Commissioner Musich, at this point, with us starting our 2024 and 2025 budget process earlier this year, because we're entering into a biennial process, I would suspect that those conversations would happen along with the budget development.
Okay, that's great to know. And under the financial controls, does it have a timeline under which we're required to replenish that fund?
Chair Thompson and Commissioner Musich, no, there is not.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that additional information. I appreciate it.
Yes, Commissioner Schaefer.
Can you remind me what the fund requirement number was?
It is 5% of our general fund expenditure budget.
Roughly?
So it's on this slide, it's 4.9 million, so almost 5 million.
Has there been any discussion, has the city already allocated all their ARPA funds? Is there any kind of goodwill gesture on the part of the city towards this scenario that we find ourselves in?
Chair Thompson and Commissioner Schaefer, it is not something that we have approached the city on. Their ARPA dollars have been allocated out completely, so it would, it would need to be a reallocation that was recommended by the mayor and approved by the city council.
Is that a last resort, or is that something you're considering?
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Schaefer, yeah, that is part of what Director Weissman was saying as we approach this kind of concerns that we have in front of us. This is going to be one of the options that we will have, and we will have those conversations, but I think we're going to work through as an executive team on the steps that we take going forward. As Director Weissman said, those allocated ARPA fundings have been, and I've approached it before, they've been allocated, and that's been the statement we've gotten back, that those dollars are allocated. But again, we will hopefully still again have that conversation as one of our options.
Is there any other options you'd like to float with us this evening?
Chair
precursor?
Chair Thompson and Commissioner Schaefer, I do not have a great amount of ideas to share at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's free programming, maybe a lot of things we have to think about.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
President Forney, yes.
Thank you. I'm not on this committee, but appreciate the opportunity to speak to us. Yeah, we don't have a lot of good news here. Happy New Year, everybody. I can't remember. It's been within the past couple of weeks that we became aware of this shortfall and how significant it is. I need to remind everybody, first of all, how unbelievably successful we were with the legislature, how our two initiatives, how wonderful they've been. Okay, so we've done really good work, gang. And I hope that we can forge together to address some of these major issues. I've been reminded that the property tax collection is down and a huge impact on the overall city situation. We've all made a commitment to our system equity investment, so that is an ongoing situation. We have 2 more years of the youth funding, that there's a gap. That's a huge thing. And we always have the ongoing situation of our wage pressures and the union negotiations. So I just want everybody to be aware of those realities. And then, although the news seems to be better on inflation, it still is there. And as Vice President Benny and I realized that our legislators realize that we're orphans. So it's a lot of work that we've got to be doing. And this is a big reality check. And so I'm grateful that, with the biennial budgeting and everything, that we will be starting our work early. So heads up, everybody, roll up your sleeves, because we've got a big lift here. And I appreciate the report from Director Wiseman. I have confidence that this board will take this all seriously and be able to make it happen. Thank you.
Director Wiseman, I'm wondering if you could go back, I don't know how many slides it is, to the percentage, there it is, that's the one, of collected, just looking at the collected tax amounts. Is this something when we do our budgetary process, because it is like a pretty significant drop compared to the average of the past 15 years before 2023. Is that something that we, I would guess we already kind of have a rolling average of, we ask the BET for a certain amount, we budget it, and then we drop it this percent. I guess my question would be, as forecasts say that it would start having a new moving average, or, I mean, that's what my gut tells me, but I'm curious as the expert if that you kind of see the tide going that way.
Yeah, Chair Thompson and Chair Thompson. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how it still plays out with the downtown corridor and the vacancies in, you know, in the downtown area, and how that shifts pressure on residential property rather than commercial property. So you know, I don't think that this is something that is going to continue forever, but I would suspect that in 2024, we might see, I would suspect that our collection rate would be lower again in 2024, just knowing what I know today.
Yes, that was what my gut tells me as well. Vice President Abeni, would you like to add to the conversation?
Well, and so I thank you. I'm not on this committee, Chair Thompson, but I think what maybe you're suggesting is that, I think that the question is, when the calculation for the tax is coming in, do you factor it, or do you do 100% assumption? So maybe just to make the prediction a little bit more conservative for the following year. I think that's what you were suggesting.
Yeah, I'm just looking out at what we're gonna have to do, and I would assume, obviously, that with your expertise, you're already managing that, but this drop-off is significant, and I don't know that anyone would have expected it, per se. Does anyone else have any questions, comments? Seeing no lights, thank you so much for that report. I'm a firm believer, even though it's not always positive, that, you know, knowing is better than not knowing, and not burying our heads in the sand. So, on that, I would like to adjourn the Administration and Finance Committee.
And I'd like to, with noting the time is 6:17, I'd like to open the Planning Committee. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Commissioner Olson, absent. Commissioner Elper, absent. Vice Chair Thompson.
Here.
Chair Benny.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would somebody move the agenda?
Move the agenda.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So we have an agenda.
I'll move the minutes from
you.
December 26th, 2023.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We have one action item and one study item. Would somebody like to move the action item?
Yeah, I'll move Resolution 2023-250, resolution rejecting encroachment permit application for use of land in front of the subject property at 1261 West Minnehaha Parkway, encroaching upon parkland at West Minnehaha Parkway located within Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail.
Thank you. I think, I know that Commissioner who's not here tonight had wanted a presentation on this, and I think it's worth maybe asking Christine Downey to come up and present on this, because it's somewhat complicated and it'll be coming to the full board anyway if it passes tonight. And while you're coming up, I'll just note this is something that's in my district, and so I have some awareness of it, but for those that don't know, it is a little bit complicated, so thank you.
Good evening, Chair Thompson and Vice President Abeni. As you had stated, it's sort of an unusual situation. I didn't have necessarily a formal presentation that's, as you might have read with the background and the resolution, it's a lengthy resolution in which there is a lot of information that was cited in the background. Very unusual, at least in my tenure here at the Park Board, to have a resolution such as this. In speaking with Director Arvidsson and also Assistant Superintendent Michael Schroeder, this is sort of an ongoing encroachment matter that started in spring of 2021. It was a violation that was brought to our attention by one of our staff members. A boulevard on West Minnehaha Parkway had a large amount of items that were on the boulevard, and it was a violation that was brought to our attention, we normally send out a violation letter asking that they remove them or at least address it, or perhaps even apply for an encroachment permit. As part of that, the resolution, which I didn't want to necessarily go all the way through, it's very long. I should probably go back just 1 second, I'm sorry. We sent out a letter asking the property owner to address it either by applying for an encroachment permit application with an application, or we will actually have it removed and they'll have to basically take care of that matter. So that was the beginning of this particular instance. So we've tried to work with the property owner, and that's probably the long list of, we tried to summarize it. There's a lot more that actually happened since basically April, May of 2021. Over and over again, trying to work with the property owner. Unfortunately, we've gotten to a point in which we are just unable to work with them. They have not actually submitted an application in which it's actually been complete. And there has been a number of times in which we've asked them to, that we're going to actually remove the items from the boulevard, and also there's a retaining wall. And so there is this one last time in which we asked them to actually complete the application. They have not. So, and because of this being sort of a controversial matter and being so lengthy, Assistant Superintendent Schroeder asked that we perhaps bring this to the board so this be a matter that's sort of settled with the board, not to be something the staff has to basically deal with the property owner. It's been controversial. It's been brought to the media's attention. The neighborhood association's been involved. And so as a result, that's why it's before the board. As I said, I didn't necessarily want to go through the minutiae of it, but I did have other things that really not that really important. But if there are some questions, I can definitely answer. I didn't, like I said, it's almost 3 pages of detail, but I'm hoping that helps sort of give a summary of why this has been brought to the board's attention.
Thank you, Ms. Downey. Are there questions? I'd like to just make a couple of comments. And so I actually had a communication. I've communicated with the homeowners, the property owners here a couple of times over the couple of years here, and they understand this timeline right now, and I think have an intention to complete the paperwork, which includes paying of the fee, the permit fee, which I think is around $75, and then also completing a survey requirement. And there was some confusion about that I witnessed in some of the correspondence, and it wasn't the park board did a great job. The park board staff's been patient. But anyway, what I would recommend personally is that we move this forward out of committee tonight. That's what I would like to do, is vote for this. And if they still would have a couple of weeks then until our next meeting to complete the paperwork for the application. So with that, I think, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'd like to go ahead and vote on this resolution. All those in favor of approving a resolution 2023-250, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That resolution passes. The next item on the agenda is the study report item. I'd like to, I know Mr. Peterson's here to talk to us about an update on the ongoing work at Lake Hiawatha and the Hiawatha Golf Course. Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
All right, let's see. All right, thank you, Chair Benny and committee members and other commissioners. I'm just going to go through a fairly quick update on the Lake Hiawatha area projects, kind of going forward from here on out. So we've done a few things in the last year since the board approved the master plan, or the park plan is what we're calling it now. The Met Council adopted the plan in March of '23. It did go through their full committees, the Open Space Committee, excuse me, as well as the full Met Council. It was nearly unanimous with one outstanding vote, and we feel that process went very well. The golf course was also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. That happened in April. And that's a very big moment for us. It's something that will help us reinforce our designs and interpretive work as we move forward. We also presented the plan and discussed the next several years' work with state and local agencies and the regulators. So that happened earlier this year. We met with them over the course of a couple hours and just talked things through with them, let them know kind of about the project and what we're doing. And there was some Q&A, but there was no resolution for it. It's really just an informational type meeting with them, and that included folks like the DNR and Met Council and Army Corps of Engineers, City of Minneapolis, Hennepin County, etc. I'm sure I'm missing some folks. And then we also secured some funds for work in 2024. So as you know, that it seemed like there's a little bit of a gap in there between when the plan was adopted by us and what we're going to be doing here in 24. We just needed to secure those funds, and so we've done that, and we've been able to get a little bit of money for 24, so we bridge the gap until 25 when we have almost $1.5 million to spend on this project. So current and ongoing work that we've been doing in 2023. We had the pleasure of working with the City of Minneapolis, the Freshwater Group, a nonprofit organization, as well as the Friends of Lake Hiawatha in implementing the trash boom system on the North Pipe outlet that goes into Lake Hiawatha. And I'll talk about each of these 4 points in just a moment. We've also been working with and supporting the Friends of Lake Hiawatha and the Bidet Piscine Collective for their Dakota-led site tours and speaker series. We've also been working with Friends of Lake Hiawatha to do some plantings around the lake and near the North Pipe. And then we've just recently installed 4 new water monitoring wells, groundwater monitoring wells across South Minneapolis. So instead of just on the Hiawatha Golf Course property, we've spread that out and essentially quadrupled the size or the geographic size of the data that we'll be getting. So more data means better precision moving forward. Let's see here. So talking a little bit about the Osprey trash boom system. Osprey is just the manufacturer of it. There's no birds involved. So this is actually a really great success story here. And it was only in operation for about 4 months before we take it out, and supposedly ice was going to come on the lake. And so it is off the lake right now. It'll go back on in the spring, assuming the ice goes out. So over 4 months, we captured 23.7 pounds of recyclable materials and 232 pounds of trash. And then another couple pounds of organic material on top of that, so that there's a bunch of little twigs and floating things and debris that's, just nature that we've captured, and we were able to dispose of that. But that's like 55 cubic feet that can fill up most of a minivan. So that's a significant amount of trash. It doesn't solve the entire trash system or trash problem in Hiawatha. We know there's trash that comes in via the creek as well, but this is a really great start. It also brought the community together around this issue, raise more awareness, because we don't want to necessarily solve the problem in the lake. We want to resolve the problem at the source. I can go into detail, but we're also looking at, we actually cataloged, and by we, the city cataloged the types of trash so we can identify the source. So if we see a lot of, say, Gatorade bottles or other things, we can look at various baseball fields or convenience stores or things like that. We can start to identify the actual locations and kind of target better trash, more appropriate trash disposal at those locations. And then we did, I shouldn't say we, it was really led by the Friends of Lake Hiawatha and Davis Scene Collective. They did some really great work with some Dakota folks who led both site tours as well as did some lectures at the park. We walked around the lake. We were able to identify plants, some of their uses. We looked at nettles and dandelions and sweetgrass and all the things that we kind of take for granted and think they're just kind of there, but really there's uses for them. Dandelions are they're very deep in their uses, much more than just mowing them down or spraying them. So kind of exciting there to see this type of stuff work. And then some of the speakers talked about the history of Dakota people in Minnesota and Minneapolis, as well as talked through some of the treaties between the U.S. government and the Dakota tribes. And this is really kind of geared towards these lectures and these tours are really geared towards members of the neighborhood, and less so to park board staff or whomever. And then Friends of Lake Hiawatha, they helped us out with some really fun plantings in the lake. Actually, there's a little sediment delta. You can kind of see the booms in the top picture there. So as water is flushed out through the storm sewer system, it also flushes out sediment, and mostly sand and grit and things like that. So that's just a byproduct of that. And we helped them out funding some of the plantings, and they did the plantings with some volunteers and kind of experimented a little bit, see what could happen there, knowing that water does go up and down and it could be flooded out. So we tried to pick the best species of plants that could be submerged underwater for an amount of time. And then with the groundwater monitoring wells. So these are the 4 new ones, the red stars there, the blue stars that are just on in the Lake Hiawatha Golf Course area. That's the data that we've used for our several studies from 2016, 17 or so. With the 4 new groundwater wells, they're located at Horn Park, Sibley Pond, Bloomington Pond. That's actually a City of Minneapolis property. They were able to work out a deal with them. And then at McRae Park. So we'll have better data as that regional groundwater moves from west to east towards the low point, which would be Minnehaha Creek and the Mississippi River. So we'll be able to download and compile that data. That'll be done in January, and we'll actually have a summary of that data as well. And we'll be able to use that information to better design a system, both for pumping groundwater as well as kind of just understanding, grading and how it all works out there, and how new wetlands will be shaped and formed, and how we'll have dry land as well. And I do want to say, this is really important work because we are the plan does have a solution, or does propose a solution for groundwater pumping and the protection of homes from groundwater intrusion. So this is really important work that we know we need the best data possible so we can design that groundwater pumping system in the best way possible. So the project timeline, we're going out about 8 years from 2023. In 2023, we really just kind of just started this thing again. We had that staff and agency engagement session. We did the groundwater well installs, and we began the study. 24 and 25 will really be about preliminary design work, so taking the park plan and just getting it more detailed, kind of fleshing out individual projects or phases of work that can be designed and engineered. And throughout that, we will have peer reviews, we'll have community engagement opportunities. We'll continue the staff and agency engagement as well. And then there's going to be several other studies that we'll be doing concurrently with the preliminary design work. 26, 27, 28, that's really taking the preliminary design work, making construction documents, the actual documents, the instructions for those projects, because there could be several projects that come from this. In 27, we'll be bidding those projects. 28, we would start construction. And hopefully in 29, we'll have a grand opening. And I will say, this is a tentative timeline. Things do move, especially when you're looking at an 8+ year project. We'll keep an updated version of this on our project page so folks can reference that. And it is a little more detailed than this one. It was just hard to read the other version because it's a little more detailed. So the next steps, so 24 and 25, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at groundwater monitoring. We'll continue that study. We'll have the updated pumping numbers and stormwater quantities that are actually pumped into the Lake Hiawatha. We'll develop a project charter, and that will guide the planning process and timelines. And then we'll actually build or advertise a request for qualification, so we can actually have a consultant team come on and perform the preliminary design work. We're going to be restarting community engagement, but we do need to first have a conversation with the Gulf community and establish a working relationship. We realize that relationship is not solid enough. We need to strengthen that, so we have a better rounded project going forward here. And then we'll continue relationships and conversations with Friends of Lake Hiawatha and the Dakota community and other members of the community as well. So the preliminary design work, we'll be able to develop detailed designs for the golf course. We'll have the community engagement. We'll have the creation of multiple construction project phases. And we'll have staff and community engagement, or staff and agency engagement included with that. And that includes permitting conversations, things like that. And then the additional studies beyond just the design work. We need to process the groundwater information and pond pumping data. We'll be doing a phase 1 and 2 environmental study. We'll be doing geotechnical studies. We'll be doing a survey of the nearby basement elevations, so we have a better handle on that. And then traffic and parking studies, as well as an ALTA or topo survey of the site, just getting us more and more data. And that is about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there questions? Okay, I have a question, really briefly. So on the monitoring data and the groundwater data that's being collected, is this so do you have a consultant team that's engaged to take that data in, or are you working with partners on that?
We're actually, a little bit of both. So we've hired Bar Engineering to install the wells, the 4 wells, and then they have collected the existing data from the existing 4 wells. They'll do all 8 wells here if they haven't done it already, and then they'll process it in January. We did kind of have a partnership a little bit with the Minnehaha watershed. They also wanted to use some of the data at one of the wells, so we'll be sharing that data with them.
Okay. And I sort of remember the study, and it's been a while, you know, some of the detail escapes me about the study, but the Powderhorn's situation, isn't that more of a storm sewer issue, or is it really a groundwater impact all the way down at Hiawatha, or isn't there something about capacity from the storm sewer overflows out of Lake Powderhorn, or whatever it's called? Isn't that more of a conveyance issue than a groundwater issue, or?
Chair Bene, that's a good question. I think I'd have to review some of the documentation. I do know that Powderhorn Lake is kind of a dead end for stormwater. It's transferred by pump station. It's pumped up and out and into the system. So I'd have to look at
Okay, I can look too. I mean, I think it was a conveyance issue, and I think it had to do with the water stacking up down at Hiawatha and having to be delayed more at Powderhorn, but okay. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair Benny. So this is helpful because I've been getting lots of emails asking why this project isn't getting anything done. And so I'm glad to see we are making some progress on the next steps that we had communicated out at our previous update. Will there be a Gov delivery going out that includes the information you've shared with us this evening, or at least a link to the segment of the meeting where you've presented to us this evening?
Chair Benny, Commissioner Musich, yes, I can do that. As we kind of get moving forward here and we have more things to share, that's definitely something that we want to do. I was a little hesitant to share something that was so minuscule it didn't there wasn't enough substance there. So in January we'll get the report from Bar Engineering. I'd be happy to put together in the next week or two a Gov delivery that includes some of that information, as well as the updated timeline and some of the information that you've seen here. Definitely do that.
Great, because I think over communication on this project in particular is warranted. People are very interested and they want to know what's going on. So the more we can keep them up to date, the better. Thanks.
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the Planning Committee meeting.